All right, what's going on, YouTube? So, woke up this morning. I had a ruck on the schedule for PT, for my own PT, and since I was going to do that already, I decided to go ahead and make a video for you guys about how to properly pack a rucksack. This is one of the most basic soldiering skills that you could have, and it really does pay to be good at it. All right, it's going to save you a lot of pain, a lot of trouble, and it's just going to make you a better ruck marcher in the end if you can just make sure that you pack your rucksack in the best way possible. So I gathered some basic items that you would see on most Army packing lists, whether you're going to the field or you're going to some special school or something. These are some of the items that you would normally see on a packing list, and these are some of the most basic items that I could find, basic loadout items from CIF that I could find that every soldier is going to have in their in their soldier arsenal, right? So I'm going to go ahead and show you some tips and tricks that I've learned over the years, some good TTPs to pick up on how to pack a ruck, and some things that I've learned along the way that are going to save you some pain in the long run. All right, so let's get to it. All right, so hopefully you guys can see that from where I got you. First things first, I've got my empty rucksack here, right? Nothing's in this, it's completely empty. First thing you want to do, a good habit to start getting into, is start lining your rucksack with an industrial garbage bag like this. This is actually a little bit of a thinner one, but it's all I had at the moment. But you want to go out and get those big, thick industrial trash bags. I think they're like 10 or 15 gallons, and they'll fit your entire rucksack. So just go ahead and stuff that into your rucksack and line the whole thing, and that's now going to waterproof your entire rucksack. I mean, you could, once you do this and pack everything in here and tie it off at the end, you could throw it in a lake and everything inside your rucksack is going to be completely dry. So that's tip number one. It's going to save your life right there, right off the bat. All right, so you've lined your rucksack. Now, the one thing you really want to remember is no matter what you're doing, whether you're just doing a regular ruck march, or you're going to like ranger school, or you're going out to the field, or whatever, the things that you aren't going to need right away and that are the lightest should always go to the bottom of the rucksack, okay? Now, being in the infantry for as long as I have been, going to ranger, going to selections, all these sorts of things, I have learned over the years that my sleeping bag is one of the things that I won't need most often, okay? That might sound weird, but that's just the way it is. You don't usually use a sleeping bag too often, and if you do, it's going to be the last thing you do during the day, and you'll have like a minute or two to actually get to it. Plus, it's one of the lightest things, and it's going to give you padding at the bottom of your ruck to allow for it to fill out at the bottom and have that nice sit when you put it on the ground, okay? So you got your sleeping bag. And as you can see here, I have all the elements of a sleeping bag. It's like the old archaic one, because it's just I've just been in that long, and this is still the only one that I have. But I have the Gore-Tex shell. I have the light bag, and then I have the heavy winter bag. And then I also have the stuff sack. Now, in my opinion, this stuff sack is completely useless, okay? It does work. It stuffs your sleeping bag into a nice little oddly shaped ball. That's fine, and it gives you a little extra work to get it there. But in reality, it doesn't really serve a lot of purpose. The only thing is, a lot of times this will be on a packing list with required items, so you have to bring it. But nobody actually ever says you have to stuff it, right? So this is my advice. Don't worry about stuffing this stuff sack. I think it's easier. You can get to all the different shells and everything at the end of the night when it's dark and you're in your patrol base or whatever, if everything is just already unpacked. Okay, so just, I'm going to pack this as if it were on a packing list and it was required to be on the packing list, but it's going to go on the very bottom of my ruck. I'm never going to use this. So that's down there. All right, for right now, it's like almost 100 degrees outside, already sweating balls. I already know I'm not going to need my cold weather sleeping system most likely, so that's going to go next. All the way at the bottom. Probably never going to see that bad boy the whole time I'm out in the field or rucking or whatever. So that's going all the way to the bottom. And I'm going to leave it completely loose like this, and it's gonna let me fill out my ruck as I'm packing it. See that? Instead of being in that cinched up ball that's like hard to maneuver throughout your ruck, you guys know what I'm talking about. Now I can stuff it and fit it in all the tight corners and everything, and it's just loose, ready to go if I want to pull it out. Next is going to be my Gore-Tex shell, because I probably won't use that either, most likely, unless it starts raining, right? So the chances, inshallah, is that it doesn't rain on me when I want to go to sleep. So now I go next, all the way at the bottom. Stuff it down tight. All right, and then lastly is going to be the only sleeping bag, if you use a sleeping bag, that you might use, and that's going to be your light sleeping bag, okay? Again, stuff that bad boy, fill in all the air pockets, and now you've got, see how it's nice, sitting nice on its bottom. A lot of people like try to figure that out. How do you get your rucksack to sit so good? That's how. All right, so now my sleeping bag's in there. It's all stuffed in there as good as possible for now. And you want to leave, when you're filling out like a thick rucksack, anything that's like actually got a decent amount of gear and 35 pounds or more, just undo this bottom strap all the way. Okay, it's okay, because this is all just lightweight anyway. You're not going to save yourself any heartache by tightening this down and cutting off this bottom section. Leave it open, okay? You need the room, it's fine. At the end of it, we can cinch it down and make the ruck tighter, but leave it open while you're packing it. And that goes for all your tightening straps. Keep them, when you're initially packing your ruck, keep them all loose, okay? You don't do the tightening until you're done packing your ruck completely. Okay, next thing that I'm gonna wanna pack, let's see. My spare pair of boots. Okay, these are pretty light. I wanna say these are only a few ounces. These are the Garma NFSs. These are my favorite boots, but these are spare boots, right? So the only time I'm gonna be pulling these bad boys out is if something like completely detrimental happens to the boots that I'm wearing while I'm out in the field, which typically doesn't happen, okay? Maybe if they get really wet, I gotta pull these out just to have some dry boots, but if that happens, I'm gonna have a minute or two to actually get to them and be able to switch them out. So these aren't crucial, okay? These are just extra items that I'm bringing just in case. So these are also gonna go more towards the bottom. Now the way you wanna pack these guys, you wanna actually pack them inside your ruck along the sides, because they give you the most space, like this, inside your ruck, okay? That's how I'm gonna go ahead and pack these bad boys. So I'm gonna stuff them in toe first along the sides and maneuver them around my sleeping system that's in there and get them as tight as possible and as deep as possible. And that's kind of what I'm talking about there, how your boots should be packed. Okay, so they're easily accessible, but they're out of the way at the same time. Okay, next thing I'm gonna wanna pack is gonna be your spare OCPs, your spare underwear, your spare clothes, essentially. Everything that you're gonna need to change out your uniform. Now, more than likely, that's gonna be every few days. If you're like an infantryman or combat MOS or going to Ranger or something, you're not gonna be changing clothes every day. You know, you're gonna be wearing what you're wearing, and there's nothing wrong with that, but that's just the reality of it. So those can be kind of towards the middle of the ruck, okay? Your clothes bag is gonna be a little heavier than like your sleep system, so it makes sense for it to be in the middle of the ruck, okay? So remember, it's gonna go light, medium, heavy stuff, okay? Light stuff at the bottom, medium stuff in the middle, heavy at the most top, all right? So I didn't like get out a whole bunch of my clothes or anything for this, because it's all, you know, I'm at home, I'm not actually in the field, and I just didn't feel like doing that. All right, so let's just pretend I have all my, let's say I have like 2 extra OCPs and like 5 extra socks and 5 extra tan t-shirts. And yes, I always bring in underwear. I don't do the free ball thing because I chafe and stuff. I don't know how people do that. So I have 5 extra pairs of underwear, okay? And it's all in here. And I don't wrap it up with rubber bands and stuff like people do. I just stuff everything in there, okay? And I always put it in my wet weather bag because this is usually on a packing list. It's a required item. So I'm like, okay, well, I've got a wet weather bag, so I'll use it. Now, one good trick to do with the wet weather bag, first of all, make sure there's no holes in it like this. Your wet weather bag should have no holes. And don't pack it like this. You want to turn it inside out and pack it that way, because when you put all your clothes in here, this nylon mesh material, whatever it is much easier to get in and out of than this rubber material. You know how sometimes your clothes like stick to that and it just makes it more of a pain in the ass. So turn it inside out. You know, one easier thing for you to do. Once you fill up your clothes to about the amount of clothes that I've told you, it's usually about maybe that size, right? Like a full wet weather bag. And you want to lay that right on top. And like I said, I like to keep everything a little bit loose because if you do that and you don't tighten it all up and everything, keep it loose, you're able to maneuver in a way where you can fill in all those extra little holes and air pockets that happen while you're packing. Okay, so I like to keep everything loose because of that. I think it works out better. All right, so now that's packed away. Now, next thing is going to be your wet weather gear. Wet weather gear, there's two different philosophies here, okay? If you're going to a field problem where nobody's going to care about you pulling out your wet weather gear, if you're in the infantry or you're going to some sort of school where the instructors are just not going to even let you use your wet weather gear, but it's on the packing list and you got to bring it, then this is how you'll pack it. You'll pack it right now, okay? If you're able to, if you think you're going to be in an environment where you are going to have the chance to pull out your wet weather gear, then what I would recommend is keep the bottoms packed the way I'm packing it now, towards the middle and right on top of everything else, just to give you that extra layer of waterproofing protection, and put the top in one of your side pouches so that it's easily accessible, okay? But being an infantryman, I know I'm never going to use this shit, so it's going to go right here on the top. And again, that's not for ease of access, that's really just to give me an extra layer of waterproofing for all my clothes and everything else that I've already packed, okay? So that goes right there towards the middle of the ruck. Next is going to be your Whoopi. Again, I have the old ACU pattern because I'm old like that. But this is like your best friend in the field. Everybody knows, anybody who's ever been to the field knows this is your best friend, right? So this should be at the very top, because when you do go to sleep, or if you do pull security in patrol base or whatever, and you have a chance to have that extra layer of comfort, it's going to be your Whoopi that you use. Less likely to be your sleeping bag or anything else. Really, all you need to do is pull out your Whoopi, put it over you, tuck it around, and you can lay there all night pulling security and be nice, warm, and snug, okay? So this should be at the top of your ruck. This should be something very easy to get to, something you can just, you know, open up your top flap real quick and just yank it out and be ready to go, all right? So that's gonna be right on top. Again, you don't have to fold it up all nicely. When you're packing your ruck, when you're packing stuff away in the middle of the night, in the dark, you're not gonna be packing things all nicely, so you might as well just get used to packing this thing how you're actually gonna pack it. And just stuff it, man. Just stuff it in. You'd be amazed how much you can. You'd be amazed how much you can stuff into something. Okay, so that's nice and stuffed. Last thing is going to be your poncho. I know this thing's kind of like disappearing from the Army. I don't know why, because I think the poncho is like awesome. You can make a 10 out of this. This thing saved my life like a million times. I don't really understand why the Army isn't really issuing it anymore, but maybe they'll bring it back. I don't know. But that should go at the top of your ruck, so that it's adding that extra layer of waterproofing protection. And also, this is just one of those things that you can grab out right away. You can make yourself a hooch, you know, you could cover stuff up with it. If it starts raining, you can put it over your ruck real quick. This should be at the very top of your ruck, easy accessible, and I can't really say much more than that. So put that right on top, lay it across the entire top, and stuff it down the sides. Just again for that extra layer of waterproofing. And at this point, you're looking something like that with your poncho right on top. It's covering everything up. That way when you're rucking, or if you just lay your ruck out and you didn't have time to get your poncho out to waterproof it, this bad boy is completely waterproof. If it's raining, the rain's just gonna fall off the sides. This thing's good to go. All right, so we've done all that. We're gonna go ahead and cinch up our black bag. And you don't have to actually tie it off, right? Because you don't want to end up, you might need to get into this thing while you're out in the field. Don't tie it off or anything. A lot of guys, like what I would do in Ranger School, I don't have one with me right now, but what I did in Ranger School was I kept a rubber band around it. So like I'd have all these four sides. I would just twirl it up like that, and then I'd put a rubber band on it. It'd be good to go. It's nice and cinched. All right, so that's a really good TTP to do. I would just start getting in the habit of doing that, and just keep an industrial black trash bag in your ruck at all times, because that's the thing. You'll be the one that's not worried about anything when it starts raining out in the field. You'll be like, whatever, man, my stuff's good. All right, and it's just too easy. Bunch of space. All right, of course, my neighbor just started cutting his grass, so we're just gonna work through that. All right, so, but yeah, like I said, all that stuff I packed so far, and I still have this much room in my ruck. Tons of room left. I even have that wet weather bag. I put air in it to simulate the size that it would be. Still plenty of room left in the ruck. All right. Next thing we're gonna do is our flick, or our taps. All right, so the taps is kind of like the newer thing. I like to keep all my stuff that I like, even with my PPE, all that stuff that I'm gonna have to have with my gear together. So I've got my gloves, I've got my taps, I've got my canteens. This is like a basic loadout for like a basic field problem, or like, you know, if you were to go to just some, you know, basic school or something like that. This is typically how they're gonna have you loaded out, with your mag pouches, your, you know, a few mag pouches. You got your canteens on the side. You know, I'm not saying that that is how you load it out, but this is how you typically see it. So this is how we're gonna pack it, right? So that'll go next. That's gonna be on the top, because this is gonna be one of the first things you're gonna need to get out of here once you get to where you're going, if you're not wearing it already. But we're gonna pack it as if you need to pack it away, just to show you that you can still have the space. So I put the canteens on the sides, stuff everything else in the middle. So now the canteens are laying right here, and everything else is right in the middle, like that, okay? So just like that, right on top, everything's stuffed to the sides. And my mag pouches with everything in them is still right there in the center. And I'm gonna show you why that's important. It's gonna be important because you're gonna be packing your helmet too. All right, so you got your helmet, and the way you wanna pack it is this empty side down. Doesn't matter if you're ready for airborne ops or not. Empty side down, and you're gonna fill it with the mag pouches like that, or whatever else you have on top. But in this situation, I have the mag pouches. And you wanna put it right in the center. All right? You wanna keep it in the center because you wanna keep equal weight distribution. And you wanna put it so that it's upside. That way, if it does rain and stuff, your helmet pads and everything don't get soaking wet and all nasty when it's time to put your helmet on, okay? So you put it on like that. Now you still have extra room, see right here and right here, for other stuff. Now there's other things like maybe your toiletries bag, maybe you have like extra little gear items, maybe you want to put like your extra iPro right there on top, or your tape that you're going to bring out to the field, you put it on this side. Just whatever you do end up putting there, I would advise filling that space with something, and make sure that you keep it equal weight distribution. So whatever you put there, whether it's like extra ammunition, magazines, stuff it, that's fine, but keep everything on top equalized in weight. Otherwise, if you have like even like an extra half a pound more on one side, when you start racking up those miles, you're gonna start feeling it on one side, and one of your shoulders is gonna get all screwed up, and it's just, you're gonna end up having a bad day. So always make sure you have equal weight distribution, especially as you start moving towards the top with all your heavy stuff. So I've packed that all up. I want to cinch up the cinch, tuck away the string there. You can put your knee on your helmet to cinch your ruck up nice and tight. Always do it nice and tight, because you don't want everything moving around on you when you're trying to ruck, right? Everything should be nice and secure. And now your ruck is essentially packed up. Everything else that you might need to bring with you can be stored underneath this top flap. All right, so for example, your water source, okay? Usually you'll have your camelback with you, especially if you're doing a long ruck march, just for ease of access to water. Your camelback will always go right on top of everything underneath the top flap, okay? The reason for that is because it just puts it right on top of your rucksack, so it's equal weight distribution, and all of the weight is right there on top of your shoulders where it should be. And also, if you need to take it out and refill it real quick, it's just right there. You don't have to get all up in your ruck and everything like that, okay? And it's just the cleanest, and it just makes the most sense, okay? So do it that way. Don't try to pack this away in your ruck and everything like that. Just put it right there on top, underneath your top flap. And also, a lot of guys will try to put it like on top of their ruck, like underneath these straps. I would advise not doing that because it tends to give more of a chance to burst the bladder if you're putting a lot of that pressure on a strap, okay? At least when you do it like this under the top flap, it creates that pressure when you tighten it down across the entirety of the flap and not just one strap. So like bursting the bladder is much less of an issue if you do it this way. Actually, I've never had a burst bladder doing it like this, so it should be just fine for you. But again, nice and easy on top. If you need to put anything else, if you were given like an AT4 to carry, or you had a spare barrel for you infantry guys, or if you're going to ranger school, or if you have the claymore or anything else that's heavy and that you're going to need without actually getting into your ruck, that all goes on top. If you have extra 7.62, you can fold that all up, put it right here on top, and just secure it down just like that. Okay, that again, that makes sure that all the extra heavy weight is right there on top, and it's easily accessible because that's all the stuff you're going to need is before anything else. Okay, spare ammo, claymores, AT4, water, all that is what you really need out there in the field or during patrolling, and all this stuff is just extra. Okay, so everything else underneath the top flap. Can't stress it enough. All right, and so what I like to do is have everything mostly loose, but you want to cinch everything down equally. And I always like to cinch the top first, like that. Obviously, this is going to end up being different depending on how much you have in your ruck or how, you know, all that. But I cinch down the top first, then I cinch the bottom. And you got to do it nice and tight. I do the bottom, and then that gives me a little more room to do the top again. And that pulls up the bottom of the ruck. Now it's all super nice and tight, nice and clean looking. Shit's ready to go, man. Oh yeah, that's a good 40 pounds easy. And now you still have these side pouches, right? We can still put stuff in there. So this is all like the extra stuff, all your goodies, licky chewies, things you just want easily accessible to you. You know, if you have your insect repellent, throw that in there. Your bungee cords that you might need for whatever reason, that's gonna go in there. 550 cord. I have it still in the pack just because it keeps it all nice and tight for me, plus it's not waterproof, but usually I wouldn't have it in a pack, but I just haven't used this one yet. But anyway, 550 cord nice in there. Always have a spare headlamp with batteries in your waterproofing bag. That can go right in there. Maybe an extra pair of gloves. Your PT belt, man. Hey, who knows? You might need a PT belt. All right. And then anything else, look at all this extra room. Again, equal weight distribution. If you have like MREs that were issued to you, you can stuff those in here nice and tight. But whatever goes in here, try to keep it as nice and tight as possible. Now, a couple other things where you're talking about waterproofing or organization. A lot of people will try to get these little waterproof stowaways containers. These are good, I think, more for like, I don't know, maybe like things you really don't want to get wet, like maybe a map that hasn't been laminated or like electronics, something like that. These will be good, but they're kind of bulky and it's just extra weight. So I would try not to use these as much as possible. What I do think is a good idea are quart-sized Ziploc bags. These you should just have tons of, okay? Like before you leave, for any field problem, just grab a handful of these bad boys and stuff them in your ruck. Anything that you think might need to get waterproof should go in a Ziploc bag. You can even put your phone in here, just make sure it's zipped real good. You can double Ziploc it, put your phone in here, have it in there, and it's good to go. They're also really good for organization. So if you have batteries or other things that you like, 550 cord, straps, all those types of things, you can put them individually into the bags and have them organized like that, and then there's just extra baggies for you later down the road if you do end up needing one. So Ziploc bags, man, you just can't have enough Ziploc bags. So always bring tons of Ziploc bags with you for any field problem, no matter where you go. Okay, so this is all packed up. Last thing you want to do before you head out to the field is, now you know this is everything you're going to be bringing to the field, so now you can tighten up your ruck according to what you're going to bring. So everything was loose, now you want to tighten it all up, tighten everything down, tuck away the straps. I try not to tape them too much if possible, because if your ruck does change or if you pack it differently, you don't want to have to like be tearing up that tape to get your straps to be longer. So I'll use like the bands that come with the ruck, but always make sure your straps are tied down in some way. You don't necessarily have to like roll them all up as long as your leadership's cool with that, but as long as they're tucked away and not flapping around all over the place, then that's good. The reason why you don't want to, have octopus legs all over the place is because if you're patrolling through the woods, those things are just going to get caught up all over the trees and the vines and the thorns and everything, and it's just going to make your life even harder, and it's going to make you more noisy as you're doing your patrolling, and it just looks severely unprofessional. So just don't do that. Okay, so have all your straps tucked away, and one of the last things you want to do is tighten down this bottom part. Tuck away the strap. Look at that, nice and clean. I had all that stuff in there that I showed you. Got my water source easily accessible, and this bad boy is ready to go. All right, and I mean, that's not even packed that much. You can still fit tons of shit in that rucksack. To me, that's still a pretty small rucksack. A couple other quick things that I wanted to share with you guys is, I'm not going to get into a full ruck setup video here, but I'll just give you some quick tips. As far as your waist strap goes and your shoulder straps go, everybody is going to be unique. There is no one size fits all. As far as that goes, I kind of have a longer torso as a person, so I'm set up a certain way, as opposed to somebody who's maybe 5'5". They're going to have their ruck set up a different way. But what I do want to say is that your shoulder strap should be all the way to the top of your ruck. That is, especially if you're an infantryman or if you're going to ranger school, that's because a lot of your weight, you don't see it here on this ruck, but you're going to be given items that are really heavy, that's going to end up making your ruck about this high. Okay, so if you can visualize that, all the weight's going to be up here, and you want your shoulders to be carrying that weight about right here. So if you put the shoulder straps all the way at the top, your shoulders will look like that, and it will be able to carry all that weight appropriately. You don't want your shoulders to be all the way down here. Plus your ruck's just not going to sit right, and it's just going to be weird. Every time you put it down, it's going to want to fall and all that stuff. So keep the shoulders nice and high. Waist strap, that really can be, some guys like to do it upside down. I like to do it the way it's supposed to be, but that really just depends on what your comfort is. But this should be strapped. Always ruck with your waist straps on, by the way, but because it just helps with weight distribution. Don't be that guy that doesn't use their waist strap. I don't know why people do that. But anyway, this should be strapped around your actual waist, like above the hips, okay? Not like where we wear our pants, our waist, but like your actual waist, right here. That's where your waist strap should be, right across your belly button, okay? That'll help with equal weight distribution, and you will be less tired less quickly as you're doing your ruck march. Okay, so that's where that should be. And then this side, either keep it upside down or regular side, whatever's more comfortable for you on your back. You shouldn't have any knots in your back by the time you're done ruck marching. I don't really care how far you've gone. If you set this thing up correctly and you're actually using the straps the way they're meant to be used, you'll be able to go for miles and miles without having too many real issues besides your legs being tired. Okay. All right, guys, well, I'm going on my ruck now. If you guys like this kind of stuff, you're looking for more tips and tricks, if you're trying to enhance your Army career or looking for advice on military fitness, make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss any of my future videos. And if you guys have any tips or tricks of your own, make sure you drop in the comments, just so we can continue out helping out each other and helping out the Army team as a whole. And besides that, I don't have anything else. I'll see you on the next one.